Okay, let's dive into this. Financial crime. It's this huge, often kind of hidden world, isn't it?
It really is. Massive amounts of money moving constantly.
Yeah, trillions sloshing around these super complex global markets and, trying to follow the illicit stuff, it can feel almost impossible.
Completely overwhelming. You're just buried in data, different rules, all these
Right.
acronyms.
It's a lot for anyone trying to get a handle on it.
Absolutely. And the people involved in financial crime, they're always
Mhm.
adapting, getting more sophisticated all the time.
Exactly. So today, we want to zero in on something pretty fundamental in fighting back. The unique trade identifier, the UTI.
Hmm.
Think of this deep dive as like a way to cut through some of that complexity and understand a core tool they use to bring some clarity.
That's a great way to put it. The sources we looked at really break down what a UTI actually is, why it matters so much, how it works in practice, and even where it might be heading.
Sort of a look behind the curtain at a really vital piece of the financial plumbing.
Exactly that.
Okay, so let's lay the groundwork. What exactly is a unique trade identifier?
So, in simple terms, a UTI is basically a unique code. It gets assigned to one specific financial transaction.
Okay,
And its main job is to make sure that single transaction is distinct, easily traceable, like giving every deal its own unique ID number.
gotcha. So like a serial number for every single trade.
That's a really good analogy, actually. And the big goal behind this serial number is boosting transparency and traceability, especially in the derivatives market.
Ah, derivatives. Always complex.
Right. And this wasn't just cooked up randomly. It's a direct result of regulators pushing for more accountability after financial crises highlighted the risks.
So it basically boils down to regulators saying, look, we need a reliable way to follow the money
Pretty much. UTIs give regulators and also the market participants themselves a way to pull together and analyze huge amounts of trading data.
and see the bigger picture.
Exactly. Seeing that bigger picture built from these individually tagged trades is, well, it's incredibly important.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Why are UTIs so crucial when we're talking about stopping financial crime?
Well, it really comes back to that transparency we mentioned, but scaled up globally. By making sure every trade has a unique tag, regulators have a much sharper tool to spot and investigate suspicious stuff.
Like what kind of stuff?
Think about market manipulation, for example. Someone trying to artificially inflate or deflate a price using lots of trades.
Right.
With UTIs, spotting those kinds of patterns becomes, well, significantly easier. You can connect the dots.
So you can literally follow the digital breadcrumbs of potentially illegal activity.
That's it. And it also makes life much harder for people doing things like insider trading or trying to launder money through, complicated securities deals. They often rely on confusion.
And UTIs cut through that confusion.
They aim to. Without a reliable system like the UTI, regulators would face this mammoth task of trying to piece together trades across loads of different reporting systems.
Creating gaps, loopholes.
Exactly, creating exploitable gaps that people trying to do illicit things could just walk right through.
Okay, that really highlights the problem UTIs are trying to fix.
Yeah.
So what makes a UTI work? What are the key features or requirements?
There are a few really critical things. First off is standardization,
Me.
meaning for UTIs to work smoothly across different countries, different banks, different systems, everyone needs to agree on a consistent format for the code.
Right.
Regulatory bodies have to hammer out these standards. It ensures everything integrates properly and, importantly, minimizes reporting errors. Imagine if every airport used a totally different baggage tag system.
Oh, total chaos.
Right.
Lost luggage everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so it needs a universal language. What else?
The second big one is persistence.
Persistence.
Yeah, once a UTI is given to a trade, it has to stick with that trade for its entire life, start to finish.
Even if things change.
Even if the trade gets changed, maybe it's canceled, maybe it's transferred to someone else, that original UTI stays linked. It gives you a complete, unbroken audit trail.
That makes total sense. You need the whole story of that trade, cradle to grave, no matter the twists and turns. You also mentioned global coordination.
Yes, global coordination is absolutely key. Finance markets are global, right?
Got
Trades often involve parties in different countries.
Mhm.
So there needs to be a clear agreement, usually between the counterparties in the trade, about who actually generates the UTI.
Ah, so they don't both create one by mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need to coordinate. So the same UTI is used everywhere it needs to be reported.
Mm.
Avoids duplication, avoids confusion. It's vital.
Okay, standardized, persistent, globally coordinated. Got it. Now, how does this all plug into actual regulatory compliance? the day-to-day reality for banks.
Well, accurately reporting trades and doing it on time, which UTIs make possible, isn't just good practice anymore. It's a legal must-have.
Right, it's the law.
Regulators mandate it. It's seen as a cornerstone defense against financial crime.
Right.
This need for better oversight was a huge driver for regulatory reform.
And all this data, with its UTI tag, where does it actually end up?
That's where trade repositories, or TRs, come in. Think of organizations like the DTCC in the US. They act as these huge central databases.
Right.
They collect and store all this reported trade data, and they use the UTIs as the main way to organize and find specific information. It lets regulators trace and audit trades efficiently when they need to investigate something.
So the UTI is like the index card or maybe the digital key that lets regulators unlock the right data in these massive repositories.
That's a great way to think about it. Yes. And you really have to highlight the role of international regulations here.
Right.
Things like EMI in Europe and the Dodd-Frank Act in the US. They specifically mandated using UTIs for reporting derivatives trades.
So those laws really cemented the UTI's role.
Absolutely pivotal. They basically created a global standard, or moved towards one, for financial transparency, aiming to reduce risk across the whole system.
Sounds like those regulations were the big push needed.
They were absolutely instrumental. And there's another benefit, too. By linking every single event in a trade's life under that one persistent UTI, financial firms themselves can get much better data accuracy and integrity.
Which helps them how?
Well, it's crucial for meeting their regulatory duties, obviously, but also for their own internal risk management and for spotting weird or unusual trading patterns that might need a closer look.
It all sounds very logical, very beneficial on paper. But, what about the real world? Are there headaches or challenges in actually using UTIs day to day?
Oh, definitely. Despite the clear benefits, implementing UTIs isn't without its challenges. One big one is just discrepancies between different systems.
Oh, so?
Different jurisdictions, different banks might still use slightly different data standards or have older IT systems. And this can lead to, well, inconsistencies in how UTIs get assigned or interpreted, even with the standards in place.
So even with the goal of standardization, you still get these, system compatibility glitches.
You can, yes. Another challenge is just the sheer operational complexity. Think about assigning the UTI, sharing it correctly with the other party, reporting it accurately to multiple repositories perhaps. Doing all that across potentially many counterparties and platforms requires serious investment.
In IT systems and compliance teams, I imagine?
Huge investment. Yeah, it's a massive coordination effort internally and externally.
I can only imagine the plumbing involved for a big complex trade with multiple legs or parties.
Right. And then finally, sometimes there are timing issues. Getting the UTI assigned and agreed upon by both sides exactly when the trade happens can sometimes be tricky from a technical standpoint.
Like a synchronization problem.
Yeah, it can cause delays or operational bottlenecks if the systems aren't perfectly synced up.
Okay, so not entirely smooth sailing just yet, but looking ahead, what's next for UTIs? Finance never stands still, right? How do they need to evolve?
That's a really important question. The financial world is changing fast. Think about digital assets, crypto, DeFi, decentralized finance, and this push towards faster, maybe even real-time settlements. UTIs absolutely have to keep pace.
So could we see UTIs being used for, say, Bitcoin trades or something on a DeFi platform?
That seems like a very probable direction, yes. A key area for development is definitely interoperability with blockchain-based systems.
Right.
If more trading moves on to these distributed ledgers, we'll need ways to uniquely identify those trades and report them using a system that talks seamlessly to the blockchain.
That sounds technically challenging, making those different worlds talk to each other.
It is, no doubt. Another potential development is enhanced automation.
Using AI.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Using things like AI and maybe smart contracts to assign and track UTIs instantly globally, that could really cut down on errors and those operational delays we talked about.
AI handling the identifiers. That's quite a thought. Anything else on the horizon?
Well, there's also the potential for broader application. The basic idea of a unique tag for a transaction is powerful.
So beyond just derivatives.
Exactly. You could see it expanding to cover other types of assets, other kinds of trading activities. The goal would be to boost market integrity even further and strengthen defenses against financial crime right across the financial landscape.
So it really sounds like the UTI, maybe not the sexiest topic in finance, but it's actually this incredibly critical and still evolving piece of the machinery.
Absolutely. It might seem like just a technical detail, just a code. But the unique trade identifier is truly foundational. It's about transparency, it's about accountability, and ultimately it's about building trust in the financial system.
It's fascinating how something so sort of technical underpins such a fundamental thing like market integrity. Well, we've certainly taken a deep dive into UTIs today.
We have indeed.
It really makes you think. As technology keeps racing ahead, how might this whole concept of unique identifier be applied in other areas,
Yeah.
outside of finance altogether, to bring more transparency and security to other kinds of systems? Definitely something to chew on.